Back in 2015, when SpaceX made its first successful landing, going to Mars was still a big question mark. However, now that the final tests of the Starship 2.0 are happening and we can clearly see what it looks like, one cannot help wondering what the interior of the ship is going to be like. In this video, we will explore what it takes to make a safe 6-month trip to Mars. We will discuss the necessities of the astronauts and speculate on Starship interior concepts, utilizing leaked info and extrapolating the data on previous technologies such as the International Space Station and the Space Shuttle Orbiter, keeping in mind design rules set by NASA over its many decades of research and development. Hello everyone, Subject Zero here. The layout of the ship follows two guiding functional necessities: zero-G environment and low gravity. Logically, each floor must be designed to accommodate these two necessities, plus survival and the psychological need of the astronauts. Naturally, all life support systems will be located at the lower levels, along with all hardware, tools, among other crucial gear for the space journey and living on Mars. The top floors are for living areas and the flight deck. A good Starship design needs to follow simple rules, easy to use and fix. Problems that might arise throughout the journey need to be identified quickly and be simple to solve by anybody on board. If complex problems arise, crew anxiety and stress may lead into further problems, risking the mission. Lastly, everything on the ship must be monitored with visual information available on all floors, especially CO2 levels. User interface must be clear and simple to understand. Maintaining astronauts' vitality throughout a 6-month journey is a challenge. Though travel times should strive to end around the 6-month deadline, resources on board of the Starship should be enough for at least 8 months, or 240 days. Most likely, the first few missions will be comprised of a crew of 10 people for reasons that will become self-evident by the end of the video. Keep in mind that the maximum mass that can be lifted to low Earth orbit is 100 tons. With a diameter of 9 meters and a height of 50 meters, the crew will have about 17 by 9 meters of livable space, divided into 6 floors. Though the final configuration may vary dramatically from what is presented here, this concept is meant to give you a fair idea of what is possible. The first floor of the ship, right above the fuel tanks, is where most of the storage is located. Oxygen and hydrogen tanks will be kept right beside the 2-zone airlock to external lift retractable deck, which could be spacious enough to store a Tesla Model 3 or any vehicle with those dimensions. Other machinery necessary to maintain life support systems, food, tools, among other gear, will most likely be stored on the second level. 6 months of weightlessness can severely damage astronauts' health. Located on the 3rd floor, a fitness center equipped with various multi-use zero-G fitness machines and treadmills for workouts and exercises. Also available on the same floor, bathing and toilet facilities. Now, it is important to highlight that since the Starship will be the primary living space for astronauts when they arrive on Mars, the bathroom and toilet room will have to be designed to be used while in zero-G and under Martian gravity. So it will most likely resemble a design of your regular shower cabin. However, once on Mars, normal water is one of the most precious resources, so forget about showering yourself the same way you do on Earth. Located on the 4th floor, the crew pods are especially designed to fit the needs of astronauts during zero-G and Martian gravity. Now, the configuration of this floor can be changed according to travel needs. The shorter the travel, such as to the moon for instance, this floor could be configured to handle more people. Since traveling to Mars is longer, privacy and comfort are favored. On the 5th floor is where the crew gets together to share meals, hang around, and enjoy some leisure time. Since it is a long journey to Mars, having some form of entertainment is a must. Not only that, but this floor is designed to give astronauts more room to alleviate them from the tightness of living on board a spaceship, and as much as possible, simulate some of the most pleasant earthy experiences. On the top floor, we have the flight deck. The flight deck level is specially designed to fit all crew at once, which will mainly be used for ship status monitoring, launch, and landing. One astronaut consumes about 2.5 kilograms of food, about 3 liters of water, beverages, and 1 kilogram of oxygen per day. Food is freeze-dried and packed into meal-size assortments. It is done that way for 3 main reasons: to remove water, which significantly lowers its mass, to decrease storage space, and to preserve the food. Packets are arranged into boxes containing around 10 kilocalories, or about 4 days' worth of food. Assuming a package dimension of 10 by 30 by 25 centimeters and multiplying by the number of days for 8 months, we get 60 boxes. Water and beverages sum up to 720 liters and oxygen to 273 kilograms. Multiply that by 10 and the storage challenge is evident. Fortunately, the Starship 2.0 has plenty of space. However, the only limitation here is mass. Food alone sums up to 6 tons. If we were to have food for 5 years, which is the longevity of the mission, we're talking about 45 tons, which is almost half of the total launch mass. And don't forget that everything is freeze-dried. The other half is water. Basically, you need one Starship just for food and water to keep 10 astronauts alive for 5 years. Clearly, we need better solutions. As much as we try to avoid this subject, let's be honest, if you eat, you poop. Astronauts are expected to produce about 31 kilograms of feces each throughout the 6 months of travel. Though the amount of feces isn't too much of a problem to store, gases produced by fermentation can become a huge problem. It can literally turn the container into a poop bomb. On the bright side, everything humans take to Mars are extremely valuable, including poop, so recycling is key. Introducing the full shift concept of recycling human waste. Traveling to and colonizing Mars will require a huge amount of recycling that does not require water. Full shift concept is based on torrefaction, which effectively burns any organic waste at 573 Kelvin, releasing mostly water, CO2, and everything else turns into charcoal. There is one issue with this method though. Its products must be handled with care. If the organic waste is turned into one big charcoal brick, no problem. Now if it becomes powder and goes airborne, breathing that stuff in isn't good. Then comes oxygen. One cryotank of liquid oxygen can carry as much as 307 kilograms in a tank measuring 50 by 163 centimeters. One tank is more than enough for each astronaut. However, the mass of the tank sums up to 402 kilograms. 8 tanks are enough for the crew, summing up to 3.2 tons. By the end of the trip, most of the oxygen will turn into CO2, which needs to be constantly removed or scrubbed from the atmosphere. CO2 levels must be maintained below 0.025%. Astronauts produce on average 1 kilogram of CO2 per day. A robust ventilation system located on every floor of the ship will be necessary to recycle the air. CO2 scrubbers located on the second floor will be working tirelessly to maintain those levels. The system of choice for this endeavor must fit 2 criteria: low maintenance and the ability to work continuously for thousands of hours. The past decade, NASA has been developing a robust air conditioning system designed to do exactly that through a system called Spacecraft Atmosphere Carbon Dioxide Capture via Deposition, or CDEP for short. This machine basically exploits the difference of freezing temperatures of said water, CO2, and oxygen. A series of 6 of these machines can recover about 4 kilograms of CO2 per day. 10 astronauts will produce as much as 12 kilograms, requiring about 18 machines. Now, at this point, you are probably wondering how all of this will be powered for the travel duration. After days of research, I arrived at the conclusion that electricity will most likely be generated in a combination of 3 technologies: fuel cells, batteries, and solar panels, whereas the last one is questionable. Arguably, the Starship could have ports at the mid-level right below the first floor, which would open for solar panels to be deployed. The setback with solar in this case is that while traveling to Mars, you are also moving away from the Sun, and the inverse square law kicks in. It basically means that the further away from the Sun, the less energy is available to be captured. To compensate, you could simply use more solar panels. However, the ones used on the ISS are 12 by 34 meters and generate about 220 watts per square meter. If the Starship will require the same energy as the ISS, or 40 kilowatt-hour on average, the perimeter of the Starship is only 28 meters, which means that the solar panels will have to be long, something like 2 by 30 meters, for a total of 6 panels. The ISS has 16. No wonder SpaceX removed solar panels from newer renditions of the Starship. Yet, by the time you arrive on Mars, our solar array will only capture about 120 watts per square meter, which means instead of 2 by 30, the solar array needs to be 2 by 55 meters, only adding complexity to the ship. Clearly, we need a simpler solution. Fuel cells that convert hydrogen and oxygen into water is the best choice for this endeavor. Not only it can generate the power requirements, but in conjunction with solar panels, it can create a perpetual cycle of energy production. However, as mentioned before, solar isn't consistent, along with its complexity of storing and deployment. Hydrogen fuel cells are not only more reliable, but can produce energy in a more compact space and produces water, which can be used in many ways. NASA developed technologies that are small and can produce up to 100 kilowatts per cell. The question now is, how much hydrogen and oxygen we need for the mission? Considering the specific energy of liquid hydrogen of 33.6 kilowatt-hour per kilogram and a 70% efficiency of the hydrogen fuel cell, about 1.7 kilograms of hydrogen is necessary per day, amounting to 408 kilograms for the mission. The issue is that you will need 8 times more oxygen in mass equivalent, or 14 kilograms per day, amounting to 3.2 tons. While hydrogen can be stored in only 2 tanks, for oxygen you will need about 10. Adding the mass of the tanks and we arrive at 5 tons of fuel. As a backup, on the same spot where the solar panels would be located, there is enough space to store batteries. As much as 100 Tesla Powerwalls equivalent can be stored here, providing as much as 1,350 kilowatt-hour, or enough backup power for 33 days. However, that many batteries will introduce 11 tons of mass. Taking that into account, if necessary, the number of batteries could be halved to 48 Powerwall equivalent, enough for 16.2 days backup capacity and only 5.5 tons of mass. Now, we enter the trickiest part of the mission: radiation dampening. It is crucial to note that water is an extremely effective radiation shield, along with any substance that is hydrogen-rich, such as polyethylene and Kevlar. About 7 centimeters of water can reduce space radiation by half. Studies have shown that Kevlar and polyethylene can reduce radiation more than 50%. NASA developed a new type of plastic derived from polyethylene called RXF1, which has 3 times the tensile strength. It is 2.6 times lighter than aluminum, and it is about 50% better at stopping radiation. Now, according to NASA, aluminum at 2.5 millimeter thickness can stop about 50% of space radiation. If we take this information into account, some calculations later, and we would need a layer of RXF1 of only 2 millimeters. I know, it is hard to imagine going to Mars and be protected against radiation with something so thin. Just for the sake of emotional convenience, let's make the walls about 5 centimeters. A wall that thick will add about 11.2 tons to the ship. Instead of storing all the water in tanks located at the lower levels, it would be wise to have tanks located at the floor divisions. 20 centimeter thick tanks on each level would be optimal, with a maximum capacity of 11.5 tons. As mentioned, the crew will need about 7.2 tons of water. The extra space available will be crucial to store the water generated by the fuel cells. Keep in mind that the radiation in space comes mostly from the sun, so if the spaceship aligns itself at an angle where the tanks are pointed towards it, most of the radiation will be blocked. At this point, all components mass combined sum up to 55 tons, give or take. Therefore, I don't think you will be able to fit more than 14 people in one ship. Effectively, for every added astronaut, you add 5 tons of mass. The limiting factor are the recycling machines that require a lot of energy to do their work. 20 people breathing inside the ship means 20 kilograms of CO2, which means 30 scrubbers, which means 60 CO2 tanks and a lot of energy. Hydrogen fuel cells are amazing for small groups, but not 20 or 40 or 100. If Elon Musk really wants to colonize Mars, there is no other option than to use nuclear energy, a topic that I will explore on my next video. Alright folks, that's it, we're done here.